Bienvenue à tous, bienvenue. Quelle belle salle, quelle magnifique salle pour un grand artiste. Ravie de vous retrouver pour une autre conversation, et pas des moindres, puisque c'est une conversation avec un artiste qui dit que faire des films, c'est dire une histoire ou raconter une histoire qu'on laisse entre les mains des téléspectateurs, de l'audience. Elle ne nous appartient plus, c'est ce qu'il dit. Lui, il est réalisateur, producteur, artiste complet, peintre, directeur de maison d'édition, écrivain, et puis acteur, comme vous le connaissez tous, puisqu'il a campé des rôles charismatiques au supplément d'être et au supplément d'âme. Il a joué avec les plus grands, il a côtoyé les plus grands, et lui a inspiré aussi les plus grands et plusieurs générations. La conversation se fera en anglais, rassurez-vous. Et sans plus attendre, un tonnerre d'applaudissements pour VIGGO Mortensen. C'est toujours impressionnant d'avoir un grand avec cette carrière-là et cette humilité incroyable, et vous allez le voir. VIGGO, c'est votre... Enfin, sorry, I'm going to speak in English. I forgot. It's your third time in Morocco. So, how do you feel coming back in Morocco and this festival?
It's my third time at the festival.
Ah, le micro. C'est vrai. Où est le micro de VIGGO? In the seat. OK. Ça commence bien.
Juste à côté de moi. Parfait. On ne peut pas le voir. C'est la troisième fois que je suis ici. The third time I've been at the festival. But I've been other times in Morocco to film in different places.
Okay. And you're coming for... Yesterday you presented Eureka. It's your second collaboration with Alonso. A very peculiar vision of cinema, a very contemplative cinema. But this one has a brutal aspect that we never saw in Lisandro Alonso cinema. So maybe my first question, and to start somewhere, what attracted you to this project, and how did you approach this more brutal aspect of the story?
Like you say, the first one I worked on as actor, also as one of the producers, was Jauja, that was shown in Cannes in 2014. And it was a good experience. I knew Lisandro before. And then he was working with a friend of mine who's a poet, Fabián Casas, in Argentina, on this new idea for Jauja. And it went great. It was really a good experience. You know, you hope that you will understand each other with the director and the actor, but it doesn't always happen perfectly, you know. With him, it was very easy immediately. I knew what he wanted. I knew that he expected his crew, small crew, and the actors, me included, to be responsible without saying it, you know, like I should be prepared and have a point of view, and he's not going to do very many takes, and if you're not paying attention, that's what's going to be in the movie, so you have to, you know, really pay attention. And but I had a feeling visually what he wanted to do, and in terms of storytelling, what he was trying to get across. So it was a really good experience. And then when he said, well, Fabián and I have come up with another story based on an idea he had, Lisandro, for Eureka, I thought, well, that could be great. So, but even if I like someone and I had a good experience, if I don't think I'm the right actor or I don't like the story, then I would not do it unless I was really out of money, you know. I have to like it, and I liked it a lot. I thought this is very challenging. It's going to be a difficult shoot. My part is not as big in his movie in this one as in Jauja. It's like the prologue, the first part. And I liked the conceit. I liked that it was, you know, it seemed like it was a black and white TV series from the 1960s, which I'm old enough that I remember watching them on television. But it's Lisandro, so it's not quite. It's kind of strange, artificial, like those series, but there's a poetry, you know, like when the first scene that I have with Chiara Mastroianni, the things she says are very elevated, very poetical, and you know, my character doesn't necessarily understand what she's talking about, but he's listening. And then what you refer to, the brutal aspect, I suppose, is certain elements of violence that go by quickly, but they're very in your face, direct, intense. That's not like what you would see in the 60s TV series either. So it's a strange combination of Lisandro and maybe something like from the series Rawhide or something like that. So I like the idea. I like what he was trying to do. And I was very curious what the second and third part would be. This is really going to be interesting and difficult. And he asked me about the second part, which is the longest part. He wanted to work on a reservation, an indigenous reservation in the United States. And he said, did I know anyone? And I did know some people, Lakota people, on Pine Ridge, which is one of the most difficult, poorest reservations in the United States. Maybe because that people, the Lakota people, were one of the last ones to surrender. And so they got the shittiest place to be, and they were betrayed in every way. And it's always difficult to transition. You know, maybe you know that in this country as well, for some of the people in this country. But to make a transition from a nomadic culture to a sedentary culture and to be somewhat dependent on the state and limited in your movement is a very difficult transition. And I don't know if the Lakota people have really made that transition all this time later. So anyway, so he went there and he filmed and he did something amazing there. It was beautiful with non-actors. And then the last part that takes place in sort of Amazon jungle, I just wondered how he was going to do this with the limited budget, you know. But he did it beautifully, as usual.
Was it the first time you saw the movie yesterday? So you discovered it?
No. I had seen it once completely before, but I hadn't seen it on a big screen. So yesterday I got to see some of it on a big screen. It's beautiful. I mean, I think he makes no secret that he always emphasizes image. I mean, the landscape, really, the places. That's the starting point. Whenever he wants to tell a new story, he says, I like this part of the world, or I'd like to learn about this, so I'm going to go there and look around, and then I'll come up with a story. And then the characters, they're not secondary in terms of importance, but his focus is on the setting. So they're like paintings, his movies, I think. There's no director like him.
Thank you for the transition, because the scene that we're going to watch from Jauja is like very visual and very, your characters are into a landscape, so it's interesting.
It couldn't be a more perfect painting, even the little bug on her dress, everything, and she's so wonderful. But that's a typical, I guess, point of view of Lisandro. It was not even a question that he was going to do any coverage. That's the shot, and that's all you need, you know, and it's beautiful, beautiful.
And the painter is talking, but I was wondering, because it's very visual, it's very contemplative, the atmosphere, the senses, Lisandro Alonso's cinema is very particular. I was wondering, how do you approach a screenplay of Lisandro Alonso? How do you read a screenplay? Is everything written, or there are things that you search in the shooting?
Usually there isn't a screenplay with Lisandro Alonso. Until Jauja, I don't think there really was ever a screenplay, and he had done, I think, 5 movies before Jauja. not that there's not a few words spoken, but he finds it's the place first, then the people, and if they need to say something, or being non-actors usually, they sometimes say things even if they're not supposed to, and that's in the movie, you know. With Jauja, it was the first time he had a screenplay, but it was a very small screenplay. I remember as a producer, because some of the film was shot in Denmark, I went to and I'm a Danish citizen also, I went to the Danish Film Institute, and I said, well, this is a logical thing for you to finance, because it's very creative. Lisandro is someone who's been to the Cannes Film Festival many times, internationally recognized. I'm in it as a Danish citizen. Gita Nørby is in it, the girl who's also Danish. Many elements, so it should be easy to get some funding. And they said, but we fund, this is not a screenplay. I go, what are you talking about? They said, well, it's like 18 pages or something. And this can't be a full-length feature. I said, oh, it is. You should see his other movies. They have even less words, and sometimes almost no words. That's, why does it have to be a certain page count? But at the time, the people in charge of so they didn't want to do it. But the screenplay, in this case with Jauja, was Fabián Casas, and it was strange and beautiful, like a poem. But mostly it's not adapting to the screenplay. Of course, you want to know your lines. It's seeing the places where Lisandro wants to shoot. And it's just listening to him. This scene is about this, I think, but let's find out. You know, that's the approach.
Wow, so you're doing a movie together, like.
Yeah.
So for you, for the actor that you are, is it easier to work like that, or and is there a room for improvisation, or is it very like work you prepare a lot?
Well, you look at a scene like that and you think it's very specific, right? So I understand your question, but no, I think he's open to whatever happens. I think he's maybe the most organic director that I know, in terms of, if we had said something else, even in a different language, he might have accepted that. I don't know. But we knew what he wanted to say, and I think with the actors and his crew, he tends to make a small family in a really strong way, and everybody kind of knows what needs to happen. And then when mistakes happen, let's see, the wind blows, something falls down, those become part of the experience. And so, yes, you feel free, but because he has a very gentle but clear vision, a gentle way of expressing what he wants, you feel not an obligation, but pleasure, a pleasurable responsibility in giving him what he needs, you know what I mean? So you don't end up improvising that much, but sometimes it happens, and it's okay.
Okay, so we started with like niche movies or independent movies that were very important, but you're also known for mainstream film and super production like Lord of the Rings. How do you juggle between the two? I mean, do you prepare the same for a super production as an independent movie, or is it completely different?
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a big budget and you shoot for months or years, or a small budget where you shoot for a week. The job of the actor is the same. You are supposed to arrive on time, know your lines, know your character's intentions, and then pay attention to the director and the actors and the photographer and the environment. The job is the same, and it's a camera. It doesn't matter if it's a big, expensive camera or 3 cameras or 1, you know, the job is the same. And I don't look for before or after Lord of the Rings. I'm not looking to be in a certain genre or a certain budget, or even with a certain director to work with. For me, it's always the story comes first, and I hope it's a story that's interesting, challenging, and maybe I'm a little bit nervous, I'm not sure if I can do it or something. Then you know you're on the right path, because this will be something, a new experience, right? It's like if you're singing and suddenly somebody says, I wrote this song, and you really, oh my God, that's complicated. Or I don't know if I can make those vocal transitions, but then you try it, and it makes you grow, you know. Being afraid a little bit is good sometimes, so that's what I look for. You know, I hope a story like that finds me or I find it. I know that most, in the whole history of cinema, most screenplays, like most movies, are terrible. Even more movies are terrible than screenplays, because sometimes a good screenplay makes a bad movie if the collective effort isn't good, you know. So you're lucky if you get some good projects, and I've been very lucky. I mean, I've had several experiences that most actors, if they had one or two directors like that or stories like that, they would be happy in their career, so I have no complaints.
Amazing. So let's see how Aragorn found you. Let's watch a scene of The Lord of the Rings. Jacqueline? Was this scene easy to shoot? Do you remember how you were before this scene?
I remember that the horse was very nervous. It was a very big horse, and it was cold, and also there was a lot of first getting all these things on him. He had a lot of equipment on him, and I had a lot of equipment. And he was okay with that, and I rode around for a while. And then they got all these actors there, all these soldiers and stuff. And it was a lot of noise, and visually, a lot of, you know, weapons and things and cameras and people shouting. The horse was not happy, really. Which I completely understood, so I would just go in circles and trying to calm him down. And I remember we were doing the scene, and I think we didn't do only a couple takes, because they had several cameras, you know, tight and wide, and from behind as well, and sort of from the side. And I remember we're getting to the end part, and I just thought at that moment, I don't know why, I thought, well, maybe he could rise up. Maybe I can get him to go up. And he went up, which the director was very happy, because the timing was perfect, boom, and then turned around, and then it's like, let's go. But the horse people freaked out. They were like, no, he's like a dressage horse, like equestrian. He's not trained to do that. And they were very worried, because all this equipment, if he falls on top of me, or the horse can get hurt, I can get hurt. And the director said, that's great, Viggo, can you do it again? And the horse people were like, no. And I said to them, I think he can do it. I think he kind of liked it in a way. I'll try again, but if he doesn't want to, I won't make him go up. And they were like, ah. And so we did it 2 times, and he did it quite well. I don't know if that was the first or second take. I think it was probably the first one. And he did it again, and it was fine. And so, because it's interesting, when you're really concerned about your fellow actor or performer, it takes away your own nervousness. Because before it, I was nervous about this speech and saying all these things. And in the morning, there had been some confusion, and the day before, because the speech was different. And then I said, well, this is a perfect speech, you know, because Tolkien is inspired by Nordic mythology and other things. And there's a speech that comes from Nordic mythology. It talks us about the shattered shields and the hour of wolves and all that. This was not Tolkien. But I said, we could put this in there, and they said it was a combination of what they had and so then we got this figured out. But I was nervous about, would it work, or would it seem like ridiculous? You know, you always feel like that as an actor. But because the horse was so nervous, that I put my energy into trying to make him happy, and so I forgot to be nervous, which was a good thing.
Oh my God, you're still nervous before a scene? I mean, it doesn't get well, it doesn't get better with time and with experience?
No.
Okay, good.
But then if suddenly you don't feel nervous, then there's something wrong. Then you get more nervous, because you're accustomed, your habit is, okay, I know now I'm going to feel terrible, like, why did I agree to do this? It's like when you do a play, and you're just about to go on stage, you say, I should have never said yes, I should have never said yes. And then you go out, and once you start, it goes away.
Okay.
You have this when you sing?
Yeah, always. And even before the moderation, every time.
Now?
So, yeah. Every time. So what is amazing, it's a trilogy. It's a long commitment. It's a long-term commitment. So how do you maintain the continuity and the depth of this character through the years without losing connection with him?
I think when it's a long shoot, it's actually easier. Like if you're doing a play and it's night after night and many months, or maybe a TV series, if someone's working and they play this character a long time, it becomes second nature. You get accustomed to the clothes and the way of speaking and your acting partners, the mentality of the person you're playing the character. So I think actually, unless you get bored, I don't know why you would get bored. I think in life, generally, life is short. You'll never learn all the things you could learn. To be sad or upset, tragedy, loss of life, all the things that happen in life, yes. But to be bored, I don't really understand how you can be bored in life, no matter what your station in life is, So I don't get bored. But when it's a long period like that, it was wonderful. It was like film school. It was like every day watching how they put this thing together, learning with the horses, learning the languages, to get to know everyone. And also, as a team, now they make lots of movies in New Zealand, but at that time, there wasn't such a big industry. Because of what Peter Jackson did, many movies started going there, and we started more local, national production as well. But at the time, more than half of the crew, I would say, they knew what they were doing, but they hadn't had a lot of experience, so they learned as they were making it. So by the end of this long 1 year, year and a half of shooting, everybody was very proficient, and we all learned together. It was a great experience.
Amazing. And after this iconic role, you managed to avoid being typecast, unlike some actors struggles to detach themselves from major roles. How did you manage your career after The Lord of the Rings to maintain this diversity and freedom of choice? Choice of roles.
I didn't, like I was saying before, I didn't really think about it. I did the same thing as always, looking for good stories, and I didn't try to escape The Lord of the Rings, and I didn't run to it. It was a fantastic experience, a good role, and we had the good fortune, which you never know, that the movie was very successful, and so people loved it and still love it, and that was great. And it gave me more opportunities, I had more. Really, you don't have, even if you get to be a popular performer, people think you can do whatever you want. Oh, why did they choose to do that? In reality, you have the choice to say no, thank you, if somebody offers it. But to say yes, you can only say yes if they offer it to you. So, but I did have more offers, like everybody who worked on Lord of the Rings after we did the movie. There were more opportunities, and then it's just picking the ones that you feel speak to you, When you're preparing a role and then performing, and then you have to promote it, it's a long period. It can be a couple of years. So it's always better to try to do something that you like, because otherwise when you come to promote it, then you have to talk about the weather, or anything else, or jokes about the production or something, or the shoot, but not at the substance of the story. So it's better if it's something you like. And I've been lucky. I've had some good opportunities.
Yeah, and talented. Not only lucky. You appeared in Hidalgo in 2004 with Omar Sharif and History of Violence.
I loved working with him. I miss him. He was very nice speaking with him. We shot that in Morocco, in Ouarzazate and Arfoud. And I had some really nice conversations with him, because sometimes he would come early and he was in his costume, sitting in his van, and I would sit and talk with him and asking him questions, because I remembered being a little kid and my mother taking me to see, when I was very little, Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago, so I was like, wow. I was thinking if my mother could be sitting here right now, she would faint, you know. But it was great to ask him questions about how those shoots were done in some of the places where we were filming also.
And is it impressive for an actor to play? I mean, to play in front of like masters like that. I mean, you saw them when you were little and you play with them. Is it a kind of pressure?
It was like a gift. It was a strange thing, you know. He was very personable, and we were just two actors working. Really, that's all it was. And yet, wow. I had this memory as a child.
And then History of Violence in 2005, making your first collaboration with David Cronenberg. Let's watch a scene with Ed Harris in front of Tom Styles' house. I mean, this confrontation with Ed Harris is incredible. I mean, it's the kind of scene that stays years after years. I was wondering, how did you prepare for such a scene to capture the essence of the latent conflict between your character and Ed Harris' character? Because, I mean, the tension is always here, and there are a lot of things happening in your face. I mean, I think it's the first time, or one of the first time, that we understand that Tom Styles has something wrong. There is something wrong with him. So how did you prepare for the scene with Ed Harris?
Well, it's great the way that scene was shot and the way it was put together. Every time I see it, I see something new. I mean, as a director, it's an incredible sequence. There's a game between my character and Ed's, you know. He knows who I am. I know he knows who I am, but I haven't given any sign that I admit it, you know. So this scene was really important transition in the movie for the story, but also especially for my character. It was maybe the most important scene because it starts a little earlier. I come outside and before that they take my son, and then the mother goes crazy, and I look at her and I'm saying, no, wait, I'll get him. She doesn't understand what I mean. I said, go in the house. And there's a moment, it's when I turn around, just before this, what we saw starts, I turn around and look at Ed, and you need a director who pays attention to little things, because if they don't, then they don't take care of it in the shooting and especially the editing. But I trusted him already, and I knew he was looking at these little things. So I thought, if I think Tom going to Joey, it will be there. Like, I would trust that. So when I turn around and I look at him, there's a change in the eyes and the face, I guess. That, like you say, then the audience goes, oh, what's going on, you know? And, but this only works if you have a great director and a really good editor, you know, which he also is. So it was very important. And also the father-son, that's a very incredibly important moment. I love the way that played out at the end. It's really disturbing. It's like you can't go back now. Yeah. This has happened. This son has seen this. This son has done this. He has seen who I am. There's so much going on between the two of them. It was a really, those scenes for an actor are a wonderful opportunity to play.
And did you feel it when you were like reading the screenplay, and did you say yes, like very quickly, or not?
Well, I knew that scene when I read the script, that's an important scene. Obviously, something is revealed, but it's just on the page, and it doesn't have all the subtlety that you hope the director will get, you know? And you're dependent on the other actors, how they behave toward you, obviously, not just how it's shot and directed. But I could feel it on the day when we were doing it. I think we only did one take where I turn around and come forward, because then David said, that's exactly right, that's good, I could see it, the change. I said, it was too subtle. He says, no, it's there, it's good, trust me, it's okay. I said, okay. So he was very efficient. In a way, I mean, Lisandro's that way too. You know, when he has something, he just doesn't doubt it. He goes forward.
And did you want to work with David Cronenberg, or is it something that came like naturally?
No, I admired him. I mean, when I met him for this, he was in Los Angeles. I was living there at the time, and I read this screenplay. The original screenplay was maybe 35 pages longer or something like that, 30 at least. And it wasn't, to me, it wasn't very good. I mean, it's based on a pulp novel, so it's a lot of gratuitous violence and exploitation, because that's what that genre is, right? Pulp fiction. And I read it, and I thought, oh, it's too bad, because I love David Cronenberg, but this is not, I don't like this, really. And I said to the agent, what do I do? I said, well, you should meet him. I said, no, I would like to meet him. So, because usually I don't want to waste someone's time, you know. So, but I met him for breakfast and at some place, and a hotel where he was staying, I think. And then I said, well, I just would like to say right away, to be honest with you, because I don't want to waste your time, I don't think it's a very good screenplay. You know, I just want to be honest. And he says, I don't like it either. It's not very good. I said, okay. So why are you doing it? He says, because it could be a really great story. And he said, I won't go into detail because I don't know exactly how yet, but trust me, I'm going to make it work. And he didn't, you know, the rules of, I don't know how it works, but, you know. The author of this screenplay, who's a good screenwriter, who adapted this pulp novel, he was nominated for an Oscar for that screenplay, and rightly so. But really, David should have also been, because when we shot the movie, it was like 70-something pages instead of 115 or 20 pages. And it was what you see. So I trusted him, and fortunately, it was great.
Wow. And this is what it's all about? It's more about the director than the screenplay? Or?
No, for me it's the screenplay. But in this case, he said, trust me, it will be a screenplay that we both like. Otherwise, I don't want to do it either. And I said, okay. Okay. And he said, I appreciate you being honest. And that was sort of the beginning of our relationship, which was, maybe it was good. I was honest with him, and he was honest with me. And he said, trust me. And then, you know, we communicated a little bit before the shoot. And he said, I got rid of this, I got rid of that. It's now much more straightforward. And yeah.
And is it easier now because you made several movies with David Cronenberg? Is it because it's David Cronenberg, or is it about the story or the character today with him?
It's still the story, but obviously there's an extra trust with him, you know. If there's a story I'm not quite understanding completely, and it's him, I would be more likely to take a chance, just like with Lisandro. But it's still the story, you know. It still has to be something I feel I'm the right person to play, you know. The last two I did with him, Dangerous Method and Crimes of the Future. I remember Dangerous Method, when he first offered to me, I didn't think I was the right guy to play Sigmund Freud. I was like, are you crazy? I don't look anything like him. He said, but you could, when he was younger, you could. I said, I don't know. And so it went away, and he was going to do it with someone else. He had another actor, good actor. And then that actor abandoned him to do something else for more money last minute. And he was like, can you please do it? And I was like, do you really think I can do it? And he said, yes, I definitely think you, and I think you would understand his sense of humor, which is kind of like mine. I said, okay. And then once I started researching, I realized he was right. And it was a very enjoyable experience. I really enjoyed that. So it was a matter of trust, you know. If it was another director, I wouldn't have done it, probably.
Okay. And do you think a lot when, before saying yes to a project? I mean, when you read the screenplay, is it something instinctive that you say yes easily, or do you take time to
There's
think?
some things that I read and I know right away I'm probably going to do it if they want me to do it, because it's good, but that's rare. But even when I'm pretty sure, I think, okay, let a couple of days go by and then I'll read it again. I just want to be sure. Just because it takes a lot of time and effort to prepare, shoot, and promote. It's, you know, it's a couple of years of your life, if you do it the right way. Some people do many movies a year, and they just one after another, and you can tell, because even if they're good performers, it's not very detailed, the performance, or it's not, because you don't have time. If you just do it without preparation and you don't really commit 100% as a director or as an actor, it's not going to be as good as it could be.
And what about Loin des Hommes? How?
Loin des Hommes, I was surprised. there was a producer that contacted me, and he wrote and he said, "Do you understand French? Can you speak French?" I said, "Yeah, a little bit." I said, "Because I saw a video of you presenting a hockey player in Montreal, Guy Lafleur, the late Guy Lafleur, unfortunately, great player who was an idol of mine when I was an adolescent. And I saw it's only about 30 seconds you're speaking, but could you speak some more?" I said, "Yeah, could you do a whole movie in French?" I said, "Ooh, I don't know. I can try, it's not impossible." And so then I said, "Well, why don't you send me the screenplay?" And I read it, and I thought, okay, yeah. And then I said, "But half of what he says is in Arabic. I don't speak Arabic." And he said, "Well, that you can work on it, and maybe we can put less in." I said, "No, I don't think you should put less, because he's a person from Algeria, and he was raised in the mountains, and he would speak that." And so I worked on that, and it was interesting, that experience in terms of languages, because I didn't know Arabic, so I learned phonetically, and I worked with someone who was Algerian so that it would be the right accent and vocabulary. And so because I was learning it new without any preconditions, it somehow was easier. The French, because my way of speaking French has a little bit of where I learned it from Quebec, it was harder. And the French director was like, no. I thought it was close. No, it's not correct. No, tes un instituteur. Tu parles bien le français, c'est pas comme ça. I said, okay, and so we do it again. But it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it, doing that movie.
Let's watch a scene with Reda Kateb and how you speak. Et on va même regarder une autre scène, un autre film maintenant, Eastern Promises, la scène du restaurant, pour voir aussi, to see. I'm speaking French. I'm talking French.
Non, je voulais dire aussi, c'était formidable l'expérience de travailler avec Reda aussi. Oui. Belle expérience, travailler avec lui. Et pour David Olhoffen, he's very, very fine director, very fine writer also. And yeah, that was a special story, that one.
Yeah, I know, because where did you find the nuances between those characters, like Daru and Mohammed, and how did you make them connect?
Well, it's like in the story itself, they seem like there's no way they could connect at first, you know, but then as time goes by, you realize these men that seem so different they were raised in the same place, in the same mountains. They breathe the same air, they see the same mountains, the same sky, have some of the same difficulties, you know, in terms of their way of life. And they are both, I guess, relatively honest men. And in the end, they become more and more honest with each other, and they have much more in common. But I think this is true of people generally, and I like stories and I think people like to watch stories where it seems it's impossible these people will get along, this relationship, man, woman, women, doesn't matter. Because in the end, there can always be an approach, an approachement, a way, some connection. We're not so different. We're not completely different from anybody in the world, really. It's just a question of making the effort to listen and watch, and mostly listen. I mean, it seems strange to say this now because all I'm doing is talking, but I think of us, there's a quote that I love from one of the Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, where he said, "We are born with 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we talk." And I think that's good. I try to remember, but I don't always.
And after French, Arabic, Russian, now with Eastern Promises, another huge character. Let's watch a scene.
By the way, the man who spits in my face is a great, great film director, Jerzy Skolimowski. I don't know if any of you saw the movie EO, that was won a prize at Cannes, I think last year or the year before. Great director, and also very good actor, obviously, and good at spitting.
Yeah.
Very accurate.
Was it true? Was it a true one? But it's quite impressive. Like you have the perfect accent, Russian accent. Do you speak Russian?
No, I learned to speak quite a bit for this, and there's some scenes in the movie with Armen Yunustal and with some other people, with Vincent Cassel, who plays the son of the mob boss. So there's a fair amount of Russian spoken in the movie, yeah, which I learned again by working with somebody, a Russian person, and we ended up putting a little bit more Russian than was in the screenplay originally, which was good, I think.
Do you think today a character like Nikolai, do you think you can still play this kind of characters, like speaking Russian, that it's not your mother tongue, or with all that happens in the industry, do you think you can still play a character like this today?
Well, I'm older, so it would be different, but yeah, why not? You mean, because it's not politically correct, not being Russian, you mean? I have Russian people tell me that they thought it was good, so I think it's okay. I mean, certainly, people know that, for example, Arabic characters or indigenous North American characters in movies in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even, played by Americans, English. You shouldn't do that now, obviously, but I mean, it depends, but if I can do the accent and I can do the language, I can look like I'm from there, I don't see the problem with that. It is acting, after all. I mean, you can take anything to an extreme. Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot, he shouldn't be allowed to play that role? I mean, that's ridiculous. So you just have to use common sense about what's right and what's wrong. And if I would be the first person, if I didn't think I could do the accent or the language, I would say, no, get someone else. Certainly for Russians, because most people don't speak Russian in the West, over the years I watched a lot of movies, Russian movies before this, but also movies with Russians in them. French movies, American, English movies with Russian characters. And usually the level of Russian was very low, like really terrible, like offensive. So to me it was very important. It's always important, but especially important with this character, Nikolai Luzhin, to do a good job. And Russian people have said to me, you're not Russian, but it's very close, it's very good, and it's a relief to see that you, as a movie team, that you made this effort instead of what we usually see depicted as Russians in European movies and American movies.
Yeah, and how did you, because this character of Nikolai is, we don't know if we loved him or we hate him, it's a balance between, how did you find humanity on him and make him human, even if he's a complex character? And do you have to love all your characters to play them?
Well, I don't know if love, but you develop an understanding and a fondness for them. I don't think it makes sense to play a character and try to justify the character, or to try to make people like a character who's not supposed to be likable. But he is a complex character. He seems like he's from that world. He's, this ultra-violent and cold-blooded, but then there's much more to the character. You realize he's really not that. He's acting. But he does have the skills so that he can seem as violent as anybody else. He's able to do those things because of his training. So it was an interesting mix. It was, in a way, it's another identity shift, like in the movie I made before that for David Cronenberg, History of Violence, that we talked about. There's also a shift. There's a moment, I think there's a scene with a guy from MI6, from the Secret Service in England, who comes to visit me when I'm in the hospital, and suddenly you realize, who he is, and then things start to fall together, and you think back about the other scenes you've seen, and you realize, oh, it's a mask, and it's fun to play as an actor.
Yeah, and I mean, in Tenemos un Plan, you play in Spanish, you played in Danish. The language in which you play with, do you play differently when you speak a different language of your mother tongue, or there is a preparation, another preparation? Do you play differently?
I think that the language that you speak, the music of it, without you automatically, it changes your facial expressions and it changes your body language. So you don't even have to think about it. If I'm playing a character in Spanish, but it depends, you know. I think the scene we're gonna see a scene from Todos Tenemos un Plan. There's two brothers, but they're different kinds of. They have a different attitude, so there's subtleties. But yes, language is just the music changes the way you behave, the dialect, depending, you know. Or a movie like, even though it's an American character, he's an Italian-American in Green Book or something. My body language changes when I'm speaking with that kind of music. It just happens automatically. I can feel it when I'm doing it, and it helps me, and then I can see it on the screen. And then I see things that I didn't realize I was doing differently. So yeah, it changes.
Let's watch a scene of Tenemos un Plan, which you play twins. It's quite impressive. My question would be, how did you made the difference between the twins emotionally and psychologically to make them distinct while maintaining a constancy, I mean?
Well, thinking about always any role I get that I decide, okay, I'm going to do it, then I always ask the same question. What happened before page one? Where was this person born? What was the childhood like? And so for me, together with the director, I came up with an idea of what they were like as brothers when they grew up. Who was the alpha? Who was the one who would lie, and who was the one who was more violent? And sometimes this changes, and then just the jealousies between brothers, you know. And the one who's more serious is he's gone to the city. He's become a doctor, and the other one is kind of small-time criminal and does as little work as possible and is always looking for an opportunity. And so there's a lack of trust. They're emotionally different from when they were little boys, so we just tried to carry that into this, you know.
And was it easy to like let them out when you are out of the shooting? I mean, or the
characters?
Yeah, because two characters. I mean, it's not only one.
No, I never, you know, people ask that question sometimes, and some actors talk about it, everybody's different, and they say, oh, it was so difficult to forget about it, and, you know, the ideas of this character or the behavior. Life is short, and we're going to forget as we get older so much, so I'm not in a hurry to forget anything. I'm never trying to get rid of a character. I like as many ghosts as possible. It's more comfortable.
I love it. So, do you think you were born actor or you become one?
I don't know. I think fate or luck takes you certain ways, you know. If you asked me when I was 19 or 20, would you like to be an actor? I was like, no. I couldn't imagine publicly doing what I'm doing right now, speaking with you, or performing in front of a camera. I mean, unimaginable. I was not socially that way at all. And I'm still not, but I've learned how to do it. And I've learned to relax, because we're just people, we're talking, and we're seeing scenes and talking about them. That's all it is. I don't have to be worried about it. You know, I can't make people like it, but we can talk about it. And I don't separate acting from other artistic things that I did before acting, whether it's painting or writing or photography. It's all part of being curious. I think as an artist, whether you're a singer or any kind of performer, you're curious about stories and about people and about your place in the world. And if you're performing, there's something in you that wants to transmit your interpretation of what you are experiencing. It's simply that. And so that's what it was. With movies, you know, I always liked movies. My mother used to take me when I was very little to the movies. And I grew up liking movie stories. And I guess one day I started thinking when I was about 21 or something, it would be interesting to learn how they do it. Because I was thinking at some point, I came out of a movie theater thinking, wow, it's so strange that here I am, maybe I'm in New York or Buenos Aires or could be Marrakech, and you come outside and you're surprised at where you are, or that it's nighttime and not daytime, or because you've been transported, or you're moved, you're crying during a movie, but it's just a movie. Why is it that it feels so real, or that it makes you think about your family or the past or the future or anything? How does that work? And so in the beginning I thought, well, it's the actors, they're doing this, because that's what I'm seeing on screen. So maybe being an actor I would learn about how this storytelling works, you know. But then I quickly realized sometimes the actors are not good, but the other actors help them be good. And then there's a director, and of course before there's a screenplay, and then there's music, and there's editing. Then you start to work in movies, and then say, why didn't they use that take? Why is that scene gone, you know? I thought we did a good job, you know. You don't know why. But it's a much more complicated thing, I realized. So, and then I became more interested in I was always interested, I guess, in the collective effort. What is it? How do you take a screenplay and make it into that? A lot of people are involved, you know, on the way to the screen. And I've always been interested in that.
That's why you're doing so many things, like to understand more, like music, producing.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same. I think it's the same tree, and they're just branches of the same impulse to observe, and it's like sharing something. Oh, you never believe what I just saw, and then I tell you about it. That's acting too.
Sharing.
Yeah, sharing.
Yeah, and that, sorry for that philosophical question, but it can be a question that Ben Cash could have asked to his children, maybe. So without transition, a scene from Captain Fantastic, this fantastic movie.
Well, it wasn't a scene, it was a bunch of scenes. Trailer.
Yeah.
That was a great experience working on that. It was, especially with those kids. It was really fun. And he's a really great director. I wish he would make more movies. Matt Ross, good screenwriter, very good actor. But he did such a good job. Very difficult to do this because mostly it was outdoors, very limited schedule, all those kids. Amazing what he did as a director.
Yeah, and all those kids, because they're amazing. And how is it to work with, because working with one kid is tough, but with all those kids, how did you work with them, and what did you learn from them?
To be present, mostly. I mean, you know, which is the best thing, to really pay attention and be available to the other performers. But I like working with kids. You know, they always say, don't work with children and animals because they will upstage you. I think it was W.C. Fields that said that originally, but it's like this received wisdom, supposedly. I don't agree. I've worked with kids. Both the movies I've directed have kids, very small kids. And in this case, it was similar. You get to know each other as people. And Matt was really good. He managed to get us time a couple weeks before where we did training. We trained in martial arts together. The kids learned about camping and they slept in the woods. The girls learned how to clean an animal, you know, a deer. And yeah, we just spent time together and meditating together, playing music together. Playing music was really great fun. That really got us to understand each other, and because musically you're reacting very immediately, you know, it's not words. And different instruments and just going for it. And that helped a lot. By the time we started shooting, we were friends, we knew each other, and the most important thing, the little kids felt safe, and they felt like it wasn't like this horrible job when you're getting up early and all these adults are telling you what to do and get your clothes on and all that, go to makeup, and they were looking forward to it. It was playtime, it was fun, and that's the best thing, you know. If it can be fun and you can enjoy it, much better.
And when you think, yeah, it was fun, like even for us, but very emotional too, you laugh and you cry and you laugh and you cry. So that's, do you think of the father you are when thinking about Ben Cash, about this character, or do you find him?
Yeah, there were certain things, obviously, because I am a father, and at the time, you know, I thought about my son and how he was raised, and also, fortunately, this story takes place where they live in the beginning is in the northwest of the United States, and I had lived for some years in that, near there, also in the forest, not in a tent, but in a house. And my son grew up familiar with camping and animals, and, you know, our life was not extreme like this, but some of the things, the landscapes, the weather, having a garden and taking care of trees and even hunting and things like that. And it was something I grew up with as a kid from my father, and my son and I sort of shared also. So there were certain things I was connected with. And then inevitably, just as happens with Ben Cash, you're doing your best, you think, but you can always do better, and you always have regrets that you didn't say or do the right thing at the right time. And mostly, especially let's say when a parent or a grandparent dies, you think, I should have spent more time with them. I should have listened. I should have learned more before they were gone. And you know, you can always do better. It doesn't do any good to just beat yourself up. I should have, I should have, I should have. But it's just have an awareness, and maybe you'll do a little bit better next time. But of course, I thought about all the good things that I had shared with my son, but the things that maybe I could have done better. And that's what Ben Cash sort of learns, you know, in the story. So I identified with that process.
Okay, there are so many questions, but we don't have time. I really want to talk about the director you are also, and two movies you made, two amazing movies you made. To transition between two, is the actor that you are and that you became shape the director that you are now?
Well, I think being an actor and being interested in the process of filmmaking, I mean, there are actors who just stay in their trailer or their dressing room and they come out and work, and I don't think they learn about filmmaking or what the pressure is on the director or the other actors. What works for them is just to prepare, I just give you this performance, and then I go home. I've always, like I said before, been curious about the process. How does everybody work together to make a film? And so I think I was helpful to the actors. Like, every actor is different, has a different process, and every actor has every day is different, you know. Sometimes you struggle and it doesn't work, and it's maybe as an actor I was able to talk to them and help them relax, which is the first thing you have to do, to help them find a way to give the performance and make them feel that they could trust me, you know. So maybe I had an advantage being an actor before, but because I was interested in most things that go into making a movie always, it wasn't such a big transition for me to go from acting to directing. The only difference was really, instead of me asking all the questions of the cinematographer and it was all those people asking me questions, because I was the director. Say, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. What do you mean? Well, we have to make a decision. I go, yeah, I know. Let me think about it. You know, or I don't know the answer to that. Let's work it out together, and you know, that sort of thing. But it didn't make me more nervous to direct. It was the same kind of feeling. And I think now that I've directed, I am a little more understanding and forgiving of directors when they don't seem to be paying attention or don't understand what I'm going through as an actor or something, or I'm not sure. I understand. I'm more forgiving because it's like, it's not easy.
Okay, let's watch Falling, the trailer of Falling, your first feature. Yeah.
Great performance by Lance Henriksen, someone who's done, I think, 300 movies or something like that. And one of the things that was sad about when the movie was ready was 2020. And we were invited to go to Cannes. And Lance Henriksen, even though he's done 300 movies, great actor, he's never been to Cannes in his life. And I was like so looking forward to it, and then of course it was canceled. It was bad luck. That was really, I would have loved to go up the red carpet with him. It would have been so beautiful. But it was a great experience working with him, and I remember the first time we showed it in public, and the audience was clapping, and especially when his name came up at the end, they were clapping so loud. And we were supposed to go on stage and do a Q&A session, a conversation with the audience, and he started crying. I'd never really seen that. And he was crying, and he turned, and his face to the wall. He didn't want to go. I said, come on, we got to go. It's okay, it's okay. He was just so moved because he'd never had that kind of, even though he's had a lot of recognition, he has thousands of fans around the world, hundreds of thousands. He'd never had that experience, so. It was a great performance, and it's a real shame that, I mean, that's a performance that, in my opinion, should have won many awards. He's absolutely brilliant.
He won our hearts. So, I mean, was it an evidence for you to speak about the intimacy, something personal for the first theater, and how did you handle the emotional impact of the story? Because it's very personal.
I mean, for the first movie to make something that was...
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be something you know. I mean, the next movie I'm going to do would be filmed in a country that I've never been to. And it's also different in that I didn't write the original screenplay, and it's linear instead of a structure that goes back and forth in time. But I've already sort of started to make it personal in a way, as I'm sure I will more and more. But they do say, make stories about what you know. And I think it's universal, but it's also personal relationships between parents and children, which is what that story is about. I mean, both the movies I've made were initially inspired by images of my mother and my connection to her. And both stories have a structure that goes back and forth in time. It's not linear. And I think the reason I wanted to do that, and the emotional aspect of it that you referred to, is there are events, important events in anybody's life, moments of crisis maybe, that force you or incline you to look back and wonder how did I get to this point? How did things get to this point? Why am I in crisis, or why is this moment happening? And I think most of the time in life we go around, you smell something, or you meet somebody, or you hear a song, and you're not in the present. You are and you're not. You're remembering all the time, and it's like a computer that's redoing the memories you have. So the way I would tell a story about something that happened to me when I was 8 years old now is different than what actually happened, even though I think I'm telling exactly. And the way I would have told it 10 years ago or 20 years ago would be different. So memory is treasonous. You can't rely on it, but it's all we have, because that's who we are, and that's who we think we are based on what happened. So when you have a moment of stress or crisis, you kind of tend to go back. So how did I get here? Go back to last week, or maybe go back to your childhood even. And then some people go to doctors, and then they help them remember these things even in more detail. But so both those stories start with something that's impactful, a moment of crisis or some moments of stress, and then you go back in the past to find out more about the character, and you sort of construct them. And I like letting the audience decide for themselves. You give just enough pieces of information, but not too much. You don't explain everything. And then if they like, after 10, 15 minutes of the movie, if they're interested enough, they will start doing the work. And they will start putting the rest of the pieces together of this character and why they are there. And then they know when this character meets someone else, they know more, even than the characters. And they're like, okay, let's see how they get along. Ooh, based on their past experience, I don't know, And then naturally, your performance or your movie, if you directed it, once you show it the first time to one person, it's no longer your movie. You have given it to them, it's their movie, because their interpretation, which is just as valid as yours, is different. So it's a different movie. It belongs to them now. And now, even a scene that you see here, like say the first scene from Jauja, which is a beautiful little story, just that scene, each person that saw it saw something different, felt something different. And so that no longer belongs to Lisandro Alonso, and certainly not to me. It belongs to you. And I like that. I like giving it over. But you do everything you can before you give it over. And then it's like giving your child away or something, or a plant that you've been growing from the seed. Now it's a flower. And you hope that those people will water it and not water it too much and give it enough light. But you can't control that. They'll do what they want. They might forget to water it and it might die. Or they might give it too much water and it might get yellow and die. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And it's a very delicate movie. I mean, very sensitive. The mise en scène is very clever. The flashbacks, the past, the present. It's very beautifully written and like directed. But what are the choices of mise en scène? Was it clear from the beginning what you wanted to do with this movie? And what are your influences? The directors you work with, or other directors?
Well, I've been lucky, as I said before, to work with many good directors. And I think you learn as much, maybe more, what not to do. When I see directors that don't communicate very clearly with the crew, or sometimes they're afraid to talk to them, or they don't know how to talk to actors. Of course they could if they wanted to, but they feel like they can't, so they don't. They become inflexible, or they hide from their own crew, which seems strange, but it happens. Or they shout, or just ways of not doing it, you learn. And then other people like Cronenberg or Lisandro or Matt Ross, Captain Fantastic, or Pete Farrelly, Green Book, and Jane Campion, many other examples. One of the first examples was maybe one of the best. Peter Weir, a movie called Witness, which was the first movie I was in that I wasn't cut out of, that actually ended up on the screen. That was an amazing but misleading experience, because the shoot of Witness was calm, professional, no shouting, never went over time. The scenes were good, the movie was good, and I thought, wow, this is great, because at the time I was kind of theater or films, and wow, this film stuff is great. Wow, it's such a nice atmosphere, positive. And then it took me 20-something years before I had an experience like that again, where everything was prepared and harmonious and professional. And so it's rare. I've been lucky to work with several directors who are that way, and that helped me a lot as to how to approach it.
Yeah. And 3 years after the movie, another one, The Dead Don't Hurt. Second.
This one has not come out yet, so you're getting to see something special that nobody else has seen. And I thought, instead of trying to make a clip or one scene, just to give it's not misleading, but it's not complete, because this will not tell you exactly what the movie's about, but it will tell you the approach and the look of it to some degree. And I thought, I'll just show the very start, the first couple of shots, first couple of scenes, and then maybe that interests you enough that someday you'll go see the movie. I hope so.
So, en avant-première, a VIGGO present for you. It's quite different from Falling, but why a Western? I was wondering.
Well, I like Westerns. But I acknowledge that, like in all genres, most Westerns are terrible, really bad movies. And maybe more so in Westerns, because in the early first half of the 20th century, they made so many. It was the most popular genre for a long time. And so the more you make, the higher the percentage, the higher the number of bad ones. And most of them are bad, but there's something about it that I grew up with. I like horses. I grew up as a little kid riding horses, and I like them. But I thought this is a story at the center, the woman you see at the beginning, which starts, like what I was saying, it starts at the very end of her life, obviously, and then we go back, including meeting her as a little girl, and it's a complicated story. But it's a story at the center is this woman who's very independent, in a way creating, crossing barriers in a very quiet way. She's not like she gets a gun and goes and shoots a bunch of bad guys. It's not like a superhero movie. She's just emotionally very strong and very stubbornly independent, her own woman, her own person. And I thought it was interesting when she's sort of crossing boundaries in her quiet way, put it at a time when in North America this was the expansion of the frontier. So she's expanding the frontier personally, and in the story this is what's happening in society. And yeah, it grew out of, there was an image I have of a little girl, and then I started thinking about where does that go? So well, let me start at the end of her life, and then I'll figure out what's happening. Why, how she got there, you know. And then I thought, put it in the 1860s. That's an interesting period for North America. And there are immigrants in this story, so it's, in a way, it's like, it looks and feels like a classic Western, but the structure is more ambitious, and the fact that it's at the center is a woman is unusual for a Western also.
So it's a feminist Western?
Some people have said it. I haven't said that, but I don't mind that description, I guess, in a way. But it's not an ideological movie. I don't like movies that are telling you what to think. I never do that. I mean, the reason I like a director like Lisandro Alonso or David Cronenberg is because they make movies that they want to see. In a way, they're making a movie for an audience of one. And then they know, just like I know, that when they show the movie, then it's somebody else's opinion and they can do what they want. You hope that lots of people want to see it because then maybe you get another chance to make another movie. If you can prove that the movies that you make don't lose money, then you get another chance. But creatively, you know, I'm making a movie I want to see. And I hope you like it too. Basically.
And the producer you are, what does he think about that, I mean?
The producer worries about that sometimes. Are you sure? No. No, I as a producer, I think my job is to make sure that the money that we have to make the movie as much as possible all goes on the screen, and to be efficient and to not waste time and to be really prepared. In terms of how it's made, this goes back to your other question about falling, I guess, which I didn't quite answer. La mise en scène, how do you approach? You have a limited time, limited budget, and so the best thing is to be really prepared. There's going to be problems, there's going to be mistakes, obstacles. I mean, making a movie is about solving problems every day, little ones, big ones. No matter how well prepared you are, you're going to have problems. And it's not somebody's good day or the weather, who knows? Anything can go wrong, and usually does. But the more you prepare your idea, your list of shots, what you intend to do, the more you communicate with your crew and your cast, so everybody knows the intention, the more chance that you will be able to do it in a way that everybody can enjoy themselves and everybody can give the most of their talents. And you're more efficient, you know, you don't waste time. And so then maybe towards the end of the day, this shot that the photographer so much wanted to do, and I said, but it's not on our list. Now we finished the other ones. Do you want to do this other thing? We can still do, okay, yeah, there's more chance you can do that. And as a producer, I try to be efficient. Both the movies I made, the first one finished right on time and on the budget, and this one was very complicated to shoot, and we finished one day early and under budget. So as a producer, that's my job. What the director wants to do, no matter how crazy the idea, even if it's the same person, it's like, okay, I'll support you. But make sure you finish on time.
Yeah, conflicts. Oh my God, time flies. Time flies with you. We're like 1 hour and a half now, so
wow.
it's I still the end. But maybe a last question:
Sure.
Is it easier today to be VIGGO Mortensen or in a I mean, in a shoot or
In
en
what
tournage.
sense?
Is it easier when you have a character or in a movie, or when you are in a shooting, the first day of the shooting, for example, as a director or an actor, is it easier to be Viggo Mortensen, or is it a lot of pressure?
Maybe in the sense that I've had enough experience that no matter how difficult the day seems, or I've done it before and I've been in difficult situations before, and I know that if I work together with people, we'll figure out a way. Even if it means we can't do this scene today because the actor's sick or they can't do it, we'll do something else. We'll use the time, and by the end of the shoot, we will have made a movie somehow. I know it can be done. So in that sense, it's a little easier, but it's always a challenge, you know. Often the scenes that you think are going to be the easiest to act or the easiest to direct, sometimes they turn out to be the most difficult. You don't know why, but it just doesn't work that day, or you're not happy. But then you have to trust what happens to some degree, because if you make your best effort, even if you're not happy that day with what you got, later, maybe in the editing room, you look at it and you go, why was I so worried? That's actually really good. That's beautiful what she did there, you know. The actress or whoever. It's perfect. I like it. I don't know what I was worried about. So you have to trust the people you're working with and the story that you so much wanted to tell in the beginning. There must be a reason, you know.
Can't wait to see more stories of yours. Thank you so much,
Thanks for
Viggo
your time.
Mortensen. Thank you. Thank you to the audience.
Merci beaucoup.